Welcome to the Vintage Collection podcast. I'm Victoria of Victoria's Cantina and the Cantina Chatter podcast, and it is here that we celebrate the legacy of Hasbro's Star Wars The Vintage Collection line. The Vintage Collection consists of highly detailed and super articulated action figures, play sets, and vehicles in the 3 3/4 inch scale. It is the culmination of 42 years of toy history going back to the original Kenner Star Wars line in 1978. Ask any longtime collector of this classic toy line what the Vintage Collection means to them, and you are likely to hear words such as childhood, quality, selection, packaging, and innovation. At the Vintage Collection podcast, we advocate for the continuation and heightened support of this beloved toy line so that it furthers the collection it has established and inspires new generations of collectors for years to come. In the Vintage Collection podcast, you'll hear from some of the most established collectors and content creators who routinely express their love and support for the Vintage Collection. These include Chris from banthaskull.com, John from the Vintage Collection Facebook group, Tim from Bosk's Bounty on YouTube, and Tyler from Star Wars The Vintage Collection on Instagram. In this inaugural episode, we'll chat with some of these esteemed and highly regarded collectors to catch up on the latest news and talk various topics regarding Star Wars The Vintage Collection. At Hasbro PulseCon 2020, Hasbro announced a upcoming repack/refresh/repaint wave that is being prepped for release in 2021. We're going to talk a little bit about repacks now and the kinds of repacks that we as longtime collectors like to see going forward. And to help me do that, I have Tim from Bosk's Bounty joining me. Tim, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, Victoria. Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity to be on your show.
Absolutely. So, Tim, tell us a little bit about what you do with Bosk's Bounty.
So Bosk's Bounty is my YouTube channel, and I also have a website that sort of goes along with it, which I should do more with, really. But yeah, my YouTube channel is basically centered around the vintage collection and Star Wars collecting in general, and I do video reviews of new figures, some older figures that have come out in previous lines, and occasionally a bit in the Black Series.
Nice. Yeah, I've been following your channel for a while now. How many subscribers are you guys at?
I just passed 10,000 a couple of weeks ago, so I'm probably at about 10,500 now, which is
nice.
I'm really I never actually thought I'd get that far, to be honest. It's been a couple of years, but yeah, I'm really proud of it, I must admit.
Absolutely. Congratulations. That's not easy to do.
No, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love your content. Obviously, like you said, you focus on the vintage collection, and all of your videos tend to involve various aspects of the vintage collection. And the most recent one that I watched was the one that you did rating the various Princess Leia cardbacks.
Yeah, so I went through all of the vintage collection Princess Leia cardbacks that have been released since 2010. Well, actually 2004 with the original trilogy collection. And then, yeah, I sort of picked my top three at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun one. And it's always great to see those because, I have most of those, but I don't have all of them on display. I tend to have to rotate different ones in and out from time to time. So it was just nice to see you bring them each out. And, you have, a really nice setup. Your lighting and everything is dialed in very well, so you can see everything very nicely. And I think Princess Leia has some of the most gorgeous cardbacks in the vintage collection.
Yeah, I agree. Some of those are, I mean, it helps that it's Carrie Fisher. She's obviously a extremely attractive lady. The cardbacks that they've chosen for some of them date back to the original 96 Kenner cardbacks, and some of them that Hasbro have sort of, designed themselves. But I think we mentioned the Yavin one, and I think we had a little Twitter conversation, didn't we, that's basically saying that Hasbro really sort of did what Kenner would have done.
Yes.
And I totally agreed with that,
Yes, it's one of my favorites. I love that card. I wish that some of the others they were doing were quite to that level of quality, because, some of them, it just feels like they just went into Microsoft Paint and did something really quick.
the Yavin one is definitely like from the film, isn't it? Whereas, yeah, you're right. Some of the new ones, especially for things like Solo and the Solo ones in particular, are really bad. You know, they look like, as you say, Microsoft Paint or just a digital image which has been touched up too much.
Right, absolutely. The only thing that bothers me about it, and I think the green that they use, like the shade of green, is gorgeous for that card back, but I was looking at them the other day. So Luke is on a blue name pill with a blue background, but the ceremonial Han they did a while back is also on green, just like Leia's. It's not the same shade of green, but it's also green. So I kind of wish that the three of them were a little bit, that they each had like a totally different color.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's sometimes the color choice that they go with is a bit weird. Like with the Rogue Ones recently, they've all been green recently, haven't they? So it is, I don't really know who makes these decisions, but there must be some kind of science behind it.
Yeah, and that's totally that's something that most people probably aren't going to notice. But if you're listening to the Vintage Collection podcast, then obviously that's a very Vintage Collection collector's sort of critique.
Yeah, the name pill and the color behind the figure is very important,
It is, absolutely. Have you heard of my, I don't know if you've ever seen it on Twitter. I bring it up occasionally, but my little run-in I had with Carrie Fisher a while back.
I haven't, no.
So I was at a Star Wars Celebration in Los Angeles in 2007. And, these conventions are super jam-packed with people. They're very busy. And, lots of things happen. So I was at the cafeteria getting a snack with a friend, and I was in line, and I ordered a hot dog, and there was a lady next to me. I never looked at her because, it's not my, if somebody's wearing a Star Wars costume at a convention, sure, but if it's just somebody that standing next to you or something, I don't, I mind my own for the most part. So
yeah.
All I heard her say was, I'd like to have one as well. And so for maybe 5 minutes or so, I was in line waiting to get this hot dog, and going through it was like a cafeteria style setup. I paid for my hot dog, then I went to the little station where you can dress it. You can put on your condiments, your ketchup, your mustard, relish, whatever you want to put on it. So the lady, she got there right after I did and started doing the same thing, standing right next to me. I just assumed, I knew that there were a couple other people with her that were wearing black, and I just assumed maybe they were like on their break, maybe they were workers or something. I didn't know. And then I started noticing like some commotion. I noticed somebody started taking a picture in my direction. I'm like, huh. And then I saw it again, and I was like, that's kind of weird. And then lo and behold, the lady that was next to me ordering a hot dog was Carrie Fisher.
Oh no. Did you not notice? Did you not sort of twig when you heard the voice? Because it's quite a distinctive voice, isn't it?
Yeah,
when she ordered.
Not really. I didn't. There's so much. These conventions are just so jam packed, and there's so much in your mind. Oh, I got to hurry so that I can get to this next panel or whatever it is you're going to see. And no, and then all of a sudden, those two people that had noticed her turned into like a swarm of people, and I was just right there in the middle of all this, and it was insane. I never talked to her. I never shook her hand or anything, but that's, to me, it's kind of a fun story to remember.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would have loved to have met her. I mean, living in the UK, we don't get too many opportunities to do so, but I think she was over at one of the celebrations, and a few of my friends managed to get her signature and what have you, but I didn't get the chance. I've met Anthony Daniels, but that's my only claim to fame.
Yeah, I know, he seems swell. I've never met him, but he seems swell. So we want to talk about some of the repacks that have been occurring in Vintage Collection. So Hasbro has stated in the past that these refreshes, as they call them, are meant to be fan channel exclusives. So in the US, that's places like Big Bad Toy Store, Dorkside Toys, Entertainment Earth, and Hasbro Pulse has carried a lot of these over the last couple of years. And their intent seems to be to get out popular releases from the past back out into circulation, back out there for people that maybe are new to Vintage Collection, to add them to their collections, today. But there's been a hugely mixed reception on a lot of the choices that they've made. So that's kind of what I want to talk about a little bit today is kind of get into some of the choices that have been announced. Most recently, it has RepulseCon. So, there's a new wave.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what is going to be coming out in this refresh wave?
Yeah, so it's centered around the prequel figures, well, except for one. So I think it's the Anakin in peasant disguise. We've got the Queen Amidala from Phantom Menace. We've got the Battle Droid, and then randomly we've just got a TIE fighter pilot. They seem to put a random one in there each time, don't they? They did it with the Lando General. So all the others were Empire Strikes Back, and then they put the Lando General. But my theory for that is that they probably wanted to put Empire Strikes Back Lando, but they just haven't got that figure because the one from 2004 is just not good enough anymore. So they couldn't have repacked that one or put him into the line.
Yeah.
It's a weird choice of figures this time. I've got to say, when I was watching the live stream, I think I kind of missed something that the girl was saying about, and I apologize, I don't know her name. It might be Emily. I think I missed something that she was saying about either the Phantom Menace or the prequels in general, that they're going to be featured quite heavily next year. Mm-hmm. I'm sure I heard her say that, and that's the reason that those particular figures have been chosen. But again, it is a weird choice of figures. I mean, it's certainly,
yes.
I wouldn't have picked any of them to come back, to be honest.
Yeah, she did mention something about that, or at least she strongly hinted at something, related to the prequels. And I have a feeling that this new Obi-Wan show that Ewan McGregor says is going to be filming in March is going to maybe have flashbacks or some sort of, tie into the prequels. So maybe that's what it was. Who knows? All we can do is speculate, of course.
It's a weird one, though, isn't it? Because when was the Phantom Menace 20th anniversary? Was that last year?
Yes, 2019.
So they didn't do anything for that, did they? And then
no,
and now they're doing this. It is bizarre. I don't know. And in general, the repack waves, I mean, I've got nothing against them. I'm all for bringing more people into the line that weren't into it in the original time in 2010. And also, of course, you've got new collectors that have grown up now, and they're sort of in their late teens, early 20s, and they want to get into this, and they were too young to buy it themselves back in the day. So I'm all for them doing it. But I just wish that they would think about the character choices a bit more. I think the photo reel hasn't really sort of worked that well with, especially the Luke Skywalker and the Han Solo that recently came out.
Yeah, some of these refresh waves with photo reel are very difficult to find pristine samples of. I've noticed that with, like you're saying, the Empire Strikes Back / Return of the Jedi wave. That was really difficult. Hard to find a Lando with a perfect hairline. Hard to find Luke and Han with good eyes. I kind of feel like it's related to the sculpting because they're using the same sculpts that they've already had for ages now. And they're applying this new sort of paint technology that wasn't crafted with these sorts of sculpts in mind. If you compare them to more recent figures that are being released in Vintage Collection, like brand new sculpts, they're not having quite the same number of issues. Sometimes there's issues, but it's not quite to the level as these refresh waves. So I feel like if they're going to bring back some of these older figures, then I think it's almost imperative that they have a brand new head sculpt in order to qualify for these sorts of paint techniques.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the Lando one, he was turning up with, wonky eyebrows and his eyes printed wrong, and as you mentioned, the hairline all over the place. It's a shame, isn't it, really? Because, these are the things that they're supposedly trying to get people in, and if that's the quality, then people are just going to be turned off immediately, especially if they see a Lando Black Series sitting next to him on the pegs, which has got a really good sculpt and paint job.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you mentioned that you wouldn't have brought back any of these 4 figures. Would you have brought maybe back these characters but in different iterations?
Yeah, so I think there's much better Anakins. I mean, you could have is it VC 14 or 13? I'm trying to rack my brains here. The Revenge of the Sith one.
Oh yes.
That's a better figure. I mean, the peasant Anakin's a weird one because he comes with a lightsaber, but he doesn't have the lightsaber at that point in the show, or at least ignited anyway. He's dressed as a as a peasant, you know. And then underneath that poncho, he's got some weird paisley shirt on or something.
Yeah,
It's just a weird figure. And the Queen Amidala, you know, I would have sooner them, you know, if they're going to do repacks, and I think I've said this before on my own shows, I would have sooner them dipped into the 3.75 inch black series and given us the Padme from the arena, you know, in her white, because we haven't had that in the vintage collection, and it's
right.
A repack, you know. Okay, they've got to bring out a new card for it, but if we're talking about specifically from vintage to vintage repacks, then yeah, there's loads of figures that they could have chosen over the ones that they have, I think.
Yes, no, I totally agree. And yeah, you're right. That episode 2 version of Anakin does have like some sort of Renaissance shirt underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. The VC-13, that's one of my favorite Anakin figures. If they were able to dial in the photoreal on that one, I think he could potentially look amazing.
Yeah.
And there's also, you know, you mentioned Arena Padme. They did a really nice, when they were doing the Black Series in 3 3/4 inch, they did a really nice Arena Padme. And I think that same wave had an Anakin from Attack of the Clones and just his regular outfit.
Yeah, and that's the one we need, really. That's the one that should have been in the vintage collection originally, I think, you know.
Yes, yeah, those would look great.
He wears that for the majority of the show, for the film. You know, how much of the film is he in that peasant disguise for? Probably 5 minutes, not even that, probably.
Right, probably not even that. Yeah, no, those would have been great choices. And like you said, yeah, they would need to make new card backs, but you know, clearly that doesn't take much work for them to do that. Those would have been good choices. The Battle Droid, what do you think about that one?
I think that one's not a bad choice. I mean, you can army build that one, and it's a pretty good battle droid. And apparently they've done the whole paint scheme on him slightly different to make him look a bit more realistic, a bit more weathered, and things like that. So there seems to be a bit more effort with that one, and that's kind of like a smarter repack, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think that is a smarter repack. I only had one of them loose, so you know, I don't mind getting a few more of those. Yeah. But like you said, the TIE fighter pilot, it's weird. It's very random. It's not a great sculpt. I mean, it certainly doesn't hold up today.
No.
So yeah, that one I just really don't get.
I don't think he even has ankle joints, that
no,
figure.
It doesn't.
So that's, you know, in this day and age, 2020, and you're putting out a figure that hasn't got any type of ankle joints whatsoever.
Right. And a troop builder at that.
Yeah. And I got the TIE fighter, but I haven't actually opened it yet because I knew that the wings fall off.
They do.
So I don't even know which type, if the TIE fighter pilot in that is the same that was always on the card, you know.
It's the same figure with
it's the same.
Same figure. So yeah, you're right.
So they seem to be they're getting their money's worth out of that figure, then, aren't they?
Oh, totally. You're right, though. The wings do come off. Luckily, I have mine on the shelf, and it's just propped up on the 2 wings, and it seems to be it's standing. But yeah, one of the wings is, just looking at it, it's kind of like coming out. So hopefully that doesn't just fall out one day. But yeah, no, this I'm trying to think of what the perfect formula could be for these refresh waves. I feel like one army builder in each one. If let's suppose they're doing 2 of these refresh waves each year. Yeah. I feel like one army builder per refresh wave would be a good thing. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm of the opinion that the new Rogue One Stormtrooper should be packed in various waves throughout the year anyway. You know, just as like the 8th figure in the box or something.
Yes.
Just because people are always going to want that figure, and I know certainly in the UK he's hard to get hold of, that Rogue One Stormtrooper. So I know for a fact that a lot of people over here would love that just to be sort of almost permanently in the line.
Right.
But I think with the repack waves, they to start with, they've gone with the main characters, because I think they're thinking if it's a new fan, then the first thing they're going to want is the main characters. And I know that we had a bit of a Twitter conversation with it was with John, wasn't it, from the Facebook group, and he put up a picture of his like perfect wave, and I sort of disagreed with one of them. It was Shea Vizsla, I think it was. Because that one for me, I'm not sure. as collectors and people that know the value of that figure, I feel that it's kind of a natural pick, because anyone that wants that figure that hasn't got it doesn't really want to be paying $150 for it at the moment.
Right.
So to get it for $13.99 would be awesome.
Yes.
The people that are holding on to it at that value probably wouldn't be too happy. But I think like a new collector might not actually really want that character, or maybe even not know who that character is. They may have only watched the films. Not everybody dips into the expanded universe and reads the comics and things like that. So,
right.
But the other ones that we came up with, like the Hoth Trooper from Echo Base. I mean that's a perfect one that we should be getting a repack of.
Yeah, I got to thinking, how many of those do I have? So I had to go check. I only have one. I could use more, especially if they updated it with photoreal. Yeah. I think it offers something fresh. It offers something different. I'd say the same thing about the Rebel Trooper. I know that's coming out with the Tana V4 playset that they've got coming next year.
Yes.
But it's the same head sculpt, so I kind of feel like it doesn't really qualify to me as a new figure on a Rogue One card.
Yeah.
Why can't that be a fan channel? A refresh
I was going to mention
wave?
that one as well. Yeah, if you're bringing that playset out and it's only got the one figure in, I know they're trying to make you buy 2 or 3 of those sets, but I'm just going to buy the one set because it's just going to lay flat against the wall on a shelf, and that'll be absolutely fine for me. And I won't want to open that figure because I want at least one carded.
Yes.
So I am going to buy 2, but I'll probably only use one of the play sets. But then if you think, okay, well, I could just go back to the original Rebel Fleet Trooper that came out in 2010. That one's really expensive now on the secondary market, and even more so now that the playset's been announced, because people are like, people know that other people are going to want that figure, so he's gone up in price.
Yeah.
So he's like a stone wall. He should have been, the minute that playset was announced, it's okay, you get the exclusive card back in the set, but the girl was showing it on the Hasbro Pulse live stream with 4 or 5 Rebel Fleet Troopers on her little diorama. Now, I don't know if loads of people have that many of them. I certainly don't.
I don't either.
and I would like some more of them, but I don't want to have to buy 4 or 5 play sets to get them.
Right, exactly. I hope they figure that one out. That's, if each refresh wave had at least one army builder, of course it would need to be an army builder that is up to, more or less up to modern standards. Like we said, the TIE Pilot doesn't really fit into that category because that sculpt is from the 2000s.
Yeah.
And it's on a case by case basis. I'm talking about army builders in this case, but if we're talking about aliens or something like that, there's some great aliens that I think they could slap on vintage card backs that don't have ankles that would be perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't really get the logic behind that. Maybe it will come back somehow, but it really seems like it should be timely. Like, yes, they should have a Rebel Fleet Trooper in circulation in the main line in addition to that playset.
Absolutely, and I think that there's always reasons for why they do and don't do things, and I think perhaps maybe if they did bring it out, then they would sell less sets. So it's a bit like with the re-release of the Mandalorian and Cara Dune figures. They're set to come out when the Razor Crest comes out, for people that missed them this year. And I understand in the States they were very hard to get hold of in stores.
Yes.
We're quite lucky in the UK that we have Hasbro UK now, and 3 or 4 of our main sort of collector websites deal directly with Hasbro UK, and they get solid cases of figures. So yes, the Mandalorian himself did sell out, but then we did get him again. So he's not in short supply for us.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I saw a lot of people saying, why are they waiting to bring them out now? You've got the sculpts, just make them and bring them out now. But it's all to do with timing and marketing, and they want to bring those out at the time that the thing's coming out. So I can understand that, but
right, and of course they have to, if they need to order more, they have to place that order from the factory, and the factory has to figure out, when their schedule's open to create another run of whatever item it is, and then then it's the waiting game. They have to produce it, they have to ship it, and then, distribute it to stores. And, all of this takes time.
Absolutely, yeah. And obviously they've got their schedules probably mapped out for 18 months, haven't they? So they've got to sort of fit it in somewhere.
Right. And the fan channel exclusives are also interesting because, they're called fan channels. But these refresh waves are primarily meant to bring back classic, well-known characters for new customers. But what I do wonder is how many potential new customers that are shopping at Target, shopping at Walmart in the U.S. Would be aware of Dorkside Toys or Entertainment Earth, the places that are carrying these fan channel refresh waves.
I think the whole thing is a little bit backwards. It seems very strange that, as you say, the fan channel repacks are, as we say, the main characters. That should be the ones that are in the stores, because your average mom walks past with her child. Oh, look, it's Han Solo on the pegs, brilliant, and they'll pick it up. But hardcore collectors, as you say, that shop at Dorkside Toys and Big Bad Toy Store, are they looking for a figure that they got 10 years ago?
Right. And it's almost the opposite because, first of all, Hasbro said that these were supposed to not hit retail. And in the US, they've been hitting retail pretty hard.
From the second wave, wasn't it? So maybe they felt that the first wave fan channel, that they called it, didn't do as well as they hoped on the fan channels, and then they've purposely seeped them out into the retail, because it was the Bespin Han Solo wave that was the first one to go into retail, wasn't it? I think the second wave of repacks. It's
almost backwards, like you're saying, because the waves, like the Yak Face wave, that never hit retail in the US. I think maybe some of the closeout stores like Five Below, which we don't have any Five Below where I live, but some of those stores I think got some of those more the ones that didn't hit Walmart or didn't hit the Target stores did find their way to some of these closeout places. But it's almost more like these mainline items have been more fan channel exclusives, quote unquote, than the actual fan channel waves.
Yeah, it does seem odd. It does seem odd. They overstock on the refresh wave, and then a really cool wave comes out and nobody ever gets to see it.
Surprisingly, they've actually done really well here from what I've seen. They're actually selling through, and I don't know if it's because, like you're saying, they are main characters and maybe kids are seeing them or new collectors are seeing them and they're buying them. But I haven't really seen anything pile up locally here in the San Diego area.
No.
I think a lot of us are buying them anyway because they are updating some of the paint, the photoreal. So I think most of us that, are really into the line are probably collecting them. But obviously, we want to see a good balance. When a vintage collection came back, I think we all thought we were going to get more figures per year than we've actually received, and far fewer that have actually made it to retail in many cases. So, here's hoping that going forward, they nail down whatever that perfect science and combination is regarding these refresh waves, and the character selections are those that people genuinely become excited about and genuinely deserve to be refreshed and reissued into the vintage collection.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tim, it's been great talking to you, and I've enjoyed kind of reacting to the latest wave that was announced by Hasbro at PulseCon. Do you have any parting thoughts here before we depart?
Only that I just hope the future is bright for the vintage collection and that 2021 bears fruit.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tim, if our listeners would like to look you up online, where can they go?
So obviously my YouTube channel is Bosk's Bounty, and I was lucky enough to sort of secure most social media things for Bosk's Bounty. So Twitter at Bosk's Bounty, Instagram at Bosk's Bounty. I also have a website, www.bosksbounty.com. But mainly on YouTube and Twitter, really. That's where I sort of hang out most of the time.
Awesome. Well, hey, Tim, once again, it's been fun, and I look forward to chatting with you again.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, so we're here with John Miko. We're talking about the HasLab Star Wars The Vintage Collection Razor Crest, which has just surpassed its second tier for this HasLab crowdfund project. And we got a little bit to talk about today because Hasbro had their Fan First Friday once again. It was completely focused on the Razor Crest. So really eager to talk the Crest. So John, how's it going?
Hey Victoria, I'm hanging in there these days. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Any day that we get a little bit of Star Wars toy news, I think is a good day, even if it's not always the news we want to hear. Toy news is toy news, right? So it can't be all bad.
Exactly. I mean, I think right now we're thankful for a lot of things, but one of them we're most thankful for is our hobbies and technology, right? So with technology, we're able to really connect with it and connect with each other, and enjoy that hobby with a lot more people and hobbyists alike, and especially with everything going on with conventions and cons and all of that stuff not happening, we at least get to embrace it through technology. So I'm definitely thankful for that, and thankful for, being able to do something like this with technology too. So it's great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm glad that, a lot of people are taking advantage of the situation, and, Hasbro themselves doing these Fan First Fridays for their various properties and licenses. And, we love focusing, of course, on these Star Wars Fan First Fridays and, the stuff that they, well, not all the stuff, but sometimes they announce stuff. Sometimes they recap, certain things that were touched on before. And today was basically following up on the Razor Crest. So the Razor Crest was backed in, what was it like? It was like less than 2 days, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a little more than 24 hours. And I think it would have been sooner if they didn't have a couple hiccups with the backer page going down. So I think it was backed or pretty much almost the same amount of time that the Marvel Sentinel was backed. So yeah, I think it reached that 6,000 mark a little bit after those 24 hours. So
yeah, that's wild. Because thinking back to the sail barge, I think that took it was like a month, wasn't it? It was like almost towards the end where we still weren't really sure, is the sail barge going to get back? But it was pretty close.
Yeah, there was some nail biting moments there, and I think I ended up ordering a second one as it was starting to get closer to its goal. So yeah, that's another interesting thing to talk about with this too, is just how, during the conversation today they brought up the barge and that same thing, how it took some time to get back, where it happened so fast and they were almost taken back by it. So that was just some very revealing conversation, right, where they were talking about accomplishing the second tier unlock, and they didn't have anything else planned because they didn't know if it was going to get 10,000 or more than 10,000 backers, which that is just interesting in itself. That conversation is, well, you knew it's a pretty big pop culture phenomenon right now, but you were still kind of comparing it to your other benchmark, which was your first HasLab project.
Right.
So, it's just very revealing that they weren't anticipating this much attention to it.
Yeah, I wonder if part of it was that, once the barge actually did come to fruition, because, you had to back it before they made it. And once they actually made it, people started doing reviews. I did a video, and people started to see like what the quality actually was like. And, I know a lot of people were like, well, I should have gone in on that when I had the chance, because now it's like double the price on eBay. So I wonder if some of it was that, people didn't want to miss out. And like you say, The Mandalorian's a huge deal right now.
Yeah, that FOMO is definitely a big factor. I can't tell you how many people I speak to in the hobby that is exactly what you're saying, that they didn't get in on it. They thought, yeah, part of it had to do with the price. I mean, 500 is, what is that, 20 or 30% more than the
Yep.
current price
Yeah.
for the Razor Crest. But that other part of it was they almost didn't believe it was going to be as intricate and detailed. It's almost like they didn't believe they were going to deliver on what they promised.
Right.
So
Because
yeah,
you
good
think
point.
back to 2018, and that was a time where a lot of people had become a little disenfranchised with the Star Wars toy line. Black Series was getting a lot of attention, but the 3 3/4 inch was basically at that point just like 5 POA, and whatever Walmart was doing with 3 3/4 inch Black Series, Vintage Collection was just kind of like it was about to come back. It hadn't come back yet in March of 2018. So I think there was some of that as well. And now that the line is back, and they have done some pretty cool things in that time, I think it's brought more people on board, and maybe it's brought a few people back as well.
That's another great point. I mean, yeah, we didn't have. I think it was revealed in February, and we didn't get the new TVC product until around April, right? So yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's a very good point. Almost forgot about that. That the timing of things was, it was all just coming back, and we weren't really sure what to expect with it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a big thing, and I have a feeling that next time they do one of these, they're probably going to set the threshold a little bit higher, just so that it has a little bit of more time to breathe, and they can maybe run a little more time between those stretch goals, because like they said in today's live stream, as you alluded to, they didn't anticipate things were going to move this fast, and that they wouldn't have another tier to introduce because they only had two in the pipeline. So maybe next time it'll be like a bigger gap between tiers. Maybe it'll be like 10,000, between tier 1 and 2, or, however many they set for the next HasLab.
Yeah. Careful what we wish for, right? With the success of this, I was talking with Chris over at Bantha Skull, and he had a good point that this speaks volumes to what this could do to help the line in the future, right? This is almost like another, not a petition, but this is almost another way that we're showing our demand, the demand we have in it, and obviously, it was probably in their interest to do something with the new media and the popularity of the show, because it will draw in, right, all these people that are big fans of the show that may not be collectors of the line. I can't tell you how many people I've seen in social media discuss that, there used to be either 6-inch collectors or just a new collector in general.
Yes.
And they're jumping in on this. So
Yeah.
it's great.
And I've seen that also with like the Millennium Falcon, the Smuggler's Run version that was at Target. People that don't traditionally buy the scale knew that was coming out. They're like, oh, it's the Millennium Falcon, and they jumped in on that as well. And I think, like with the barge, that was something that relied more on the collectors that were already there, or who had been collecting for a long time.
Right.
It was based on something that wasn't in current media. Return of the Jedi, that's, it's almost 40 years old. And, this is something that's current. It is relying on the push from the show itself, and, all the other content that's being produced in relation to the show. So, yeah, no, there's a lot of reasons I think that this has been the success that it has been.
Yeah. And I mean, we got to think too that the barge has, I think, solidified the HasLab platform, right? So, what if they launched the barge today and used tier unlocks and more marketing around that? Would it have even more appeal, right? So I almost don't want to dismiss that as well, because I think with them kind of saying, we were, I think Patrick even said it at one point that, we weren't sure at one point. It was pretty, it was becoming a nail biter seeing if this was going to get backed. And, I'd like to think if they did that, the barge again today, it would be a different story, right? Because again, there's that appeal, that value, that quality that people didn't know, but it's also, again, oh, it's a HasLab. I should just get in
Yeah,
on it.
that's true. The first one didn't have any of that. It was an experiment. And now that they have a few under their belt and they kind of know how to run these campaigns a little bit better, yeah, I definitely think, more people are seeing that. And yeah, they don't want to miss out.
Yeah. Yep. So it's definitely exciting times.
Very exciting. So, thinking 2 years down the road, and I'm just going off 2 years because that's how long it's been like 2.5 years since the sail barge campaign was kicked off. So thinking down the road, 2022, let's say, it's time for a brand new HasLab campaign. What do you want to see?
Ooh, would I want to see something again in the 3 3/4 line, or am I
Yes.
putting out there what I? Okay, that, obviously, right? Man, the Crest was one of those things that you kind of knew was going to happen. I think just because of the popularity of the show. I know a lot of people were talking about a Death Star play set, with all the different corridors and the throne room and a hangar and stuff like that. Other people were talking about a cantina, and
A what?
just the Wooler's Cantina.
A what?
The cantina?
Yeah, I know. Of course, it's the cantina.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were having audio issues.
No.
Yeah. So, there's that. And then, there was a lot of great discussion about a figure set, and I was kind of on the bandwagon for give us some tertiary figures from a few different movies that we've been clamoring for, we've been begging for. Give us 10 tertiary figures that are backgrounders that we've been begging for, because I feel like in many ways we're not getting a lot of those backgrounders that made the Kenner figures what they were, and many of our Hasbro figures what they were. But I think for me it would have been either a cantina would have been great, or a figure set. The Death Star, for me, I want something that's more complete. I just don't want compartments of something. Obviously we're never getting a Death Star, because that would be absolutely ridiculous, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Or if it was parts of it, right, that would build the Death Star. But anyways, yeah, I think the figures come first, and it would have been awesome to just have, like, I know you've been pushing for the Tonica sisters. Some of us have been pushing for some of the Jabba's guards and goons there to like your Velkins and your Baratas and some other figures that you want a definitive figure of, or new characters of. Yatzer Ren and those, the mercenary pilot, a bunch of those different guys. I'm a big Return of the Jedi fan. That was the one I watched the most growing up. I'm a 1980 born child, so for me, I watched Return of the Jedi a lot. But yeah, so I think those were a couple of the options. But that's again going back to the OT. So what do you think? I mean, that's a couple of the things that I heard.
I was kind of thinking Death Star, but a few months back. But now I'm kind of starting to feel like it needs to be, like you're saying, something that's self-contained. I think what they're doing with the modular type play sets, like the Jabba's Palace thing and the coming up Tanavi 4 set, I think that stuff, works great. And if they can build on those things later with like follow-up play sets, even better. You can continue to build out your dioramas. I think that's perfect for that. But I think they found with the sail barge and now with the Razor Crest that, people don't want to buy something that's incomplete. It's kind of hard to, it would be hard to do a Death Star without it being like $1,000 or something if you want to do it right.
Right.
You could do a cantina, but, same thing. It's a diorama. I don't know how well that would work if it's just a diorama. And then you get into, well, do you design the outside of it too, the exterior and then the interior? Like, how does it work? So I feel like it's got to be its own thing. And, luckily in Star Wars, there are plenty of vehicles to choose from. So, hopefully they do something that people want first and foremost, but also something that, is a little bit ambitious and maybe something we wouldn't expect them to do. So.
Yeah, I know some people were really hoping for, fans of Rebels were hoping for the Ghost.
Yeah.
And then, the Phantom kind of built into it, and maybe both the Phantoms they had, Phantom 1 and 2. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. As you just heard me, is I think it really needs to be a complete thing. And with the cantina, yeah, I mean, we had some people on social media doing some pretty cool things with booths and wall sections, which, again, that's not a complete set, but, it's giving you that playability of having the booths and kind of a wall and, the entranceway, or kind of like that saloon look, right, with the entranceway in, but then also having that bar and cantina atmosphere. So yeah, I totally with you, but there could have been some pretty cool play sets to add on to that. And yeah, maybe the Death Star would be more of the next line of play sets that come out, and they don't just, give you one, they give you 2 or 3 or 4 different ones that have different sections of that.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the key with these modular play sets, is being consistent with them. Because, we only had the Jabba's Palace play set, and was that last year that they came out? I think it was last year, right?
Yeah, last year.
Last year. So now they're doing the other one. So I kind of feel, or, the Bespin actually just came out. So I kind of feel like they need to be consistent about it, because it kind of feels like if you're spacing these out for every 3 years, I think some people, may lose interest, and, it might never happen if they wait too long.
Yeah, no, good point. I know a lot of people were hoping for some more to add on to the Jabba's throne, the Jabba's playset, right? Jabba's playset. So could have been the throne room or the dais, all of that stuff. Why, when are we going to see that stuff? Are we going to have to wait till the anniversary of Return of the Jedi? Is all this hot new media going to kind of put things, slow things down from an OT perspective? Obviously, we got, like you said, the Bespin playset, but what does that mean for? And then we're getting the Tantive playset, right? So you got you got Rogue One, which is Rogue One episode 4, kind of around the same period, and then you have episode 5, excuse me, and episode 6 playsets. So what's next? So yeah, good point.
Yeah, we'll see. It seems like at least we got 2 announced this year, right? We got the carbon freezing chamber and then the Tantive 4 hallways. So that's cool. Maybe next year, providing that they continue ramping up Vintage Collection, I don't know if they will or won't, but if they can at least get 2 more of those types of play sets out that are, cover different territory, I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think it might have been in one of your interviews that you asked them about the success of them with the Jabba's playset, and they said that they were very successful and very pleased with their reception. So it seems like they've already started, like you're saying, with 2 playsets this year, ramping that up. It's the issue I have with all that is what many of us have, is that we need more figures to be able to
Yeah.
enjoy these. So
Yeah, that would be the ideal. I think they did a pretty good job with the Jabba's playset last year. They had just come off the success of the barge, and they were releasing, or a lot of them were reissues, but various skiff guards and figures that, that tied into not only the skiff and not only to the barge, but also to this playset. And I think if they did something like that this year for the freezing chamber, I think that would have been awesome. Even if it was just like repaints of Ugnaughts or Cloud City pilots or whatever. And then the same for the Tana V4. I mean, they're not even releasing that we know of like a rebel trooper like in the main line, so that's kind of unfortunate.
yeah, I really hope that happens. I mean, at least when they sell out of their stock of the Tantive 4 play set, that they just throw him in a case assortment at some point, maybe later next year or in the middle of next year. But yeah, I mean, we definitely got some Jabba. I always call them Jabba goons, which was great. I think the big, and that is awesome that we're just getting stuff, period, right? So we can first say we're happy this is happening and we're getting stuff, but we also want those character debuts and or that new tooling or kit bashing of updated figures, right? So it's more of that stuff that we are clamoring for. And I this year, from a newness perspective on figures, was rough, right? I think we only got eight or nine figures. So I think that's the next piece, right? So we had the petition. We've been pulling out our wallets and ponying up all this money and buying all this product. So hopefully we see what you were saying, that we see a ramp up start happening. And obviously Patrick did address it and say it's gonna take us some time. It's gonna be towards the end of next year into did he say into 2021 or 2022? I forget how he said it, but he said it's coming. It's just going to take us some time to ramp up to that.
Yeah. There's not a whole lot we can do at this point, right? I mean, they plan these things out so far in advance. All we can really do is keep asking for it and showing the support. And, it's kind of one of the things I wanted to do with the Vintage Collection podcast was I think I'm at a point where, I collect both scales. I think you get a little bit into the 6-inch as well, correct?
Yeah, I do dabble.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that it's never going to be like, the 2000 or, the 2000s, when, we're getting tons of stuff, 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's never going to be like that again. And I recognize that, but I think it's important too, we know that this is an important line. It's a historical line. It's the genesis of, Star Wars toys. And I think, the goal should be, to preserve the scale, make sure that it continues, but also to, make the biggest push we can for more product, because I think the demand is there, the support is there, but the product isn't quite there. So, hopefully with all of our combined efforts, we can make some things happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, John, hey, this has been fun talking about the Razor Crest updates and, a little bit about the Vintage Collection. So if our listeners want to find you online, where can they go?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at The Far Side of Endor. So that's my tag on Instagram, and you can find me on Facebook under John Miko. And if you don't mind, we administer a pretty large TVC group out there.
Yeah.
And it's called Star Wars, The Vintage Collection. So yeah, check us out up there. There's a ton of conversation going on right now. I think we have over over 80,000 comments, likes, and reactions going on a monthly basis right now, and it always ramps up when stuff like reveals and conventions happening. But
Yep.
there's a lot of great participation there, and there might be some Hasbro eyes and ears listening and watching in there. So we greatly appreciate that, and that's where you can find me. So thank you again for having me on the show. I had a blast, and I hope I didn't talk your ear off.
Yeah, no, awesome stuff. And 80,000 is a good number.
Thank you. Greatly appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, John.
Good talking to you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Vintage Collection podcast. For the latest developments, be sure to visit banthaskull.com and follow our contributors via the links in our show notes. You can follow Victoria's Cantina on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. For more Star Wars toy collecting content, subscribe to the Victoria's Cantina YouTube channel and listen to the Cantina Chatter podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. If you can spare a moment or two, please consider leaving a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts to help spread the word about the show. No matter where you're listening out in the galaxy, I'd like to thank you once again for tuning in to the Vintage Collection podcast. Collect them all, and may the Force be with you.